There are many different kinds of combat abilities in Naruto, but what stands out the most from the variety is Genjutsu, showing itself to be something unusual and little understood. So today I'm going to talk about all kinds of Genjutsu. The first thing to understand is what Genjutsu is in general. Genjutsu, literally meaning illusionary techniques, is one of the main jutsu categories which uses chakra. Unlike ninjutsu, the effects of Genjutsu are not real, being only sensory illusions experienced by those who fall victim to it. In fact, this is enough to get an idea of what the technicians will be like. Leaf-style Willow. The user waves their sword back and forth, which when seen by the target locks them in a genjutsu which causes them to hallucinate multiple waving arms out to slash them. The movement resembles that of a willow tree blowing in the wind. With the enemy off guard, the user is free to cut them down. Bell sound clone. The user utilizes the ringing of bells to produce a sound wave that travels through the eardrum directly into the target's brain. This paralyzes the victim while also causing them to hallucinate, seeing multiple images of the user, which makes it difficult for them to tell the real one from the illusions. Kiss Genjutsu. Gamariki kisses an opponent, placing him in an illusionary world. When the target is trapped inside the Genjutsu, everything he sees in this illusionary world will have Gamariki's face. Demonic Illusion, Cajolery of Glamour, is a speech-induced genjutsu of Gengo's creation. It allows the user to put their opponent under an illusion using only words and speech. By infusing chakra into the tongue of the user, any target within auditory range of the user will become easily swayed in a post-hypnotic trance of their will and self-assurance, forcing them to face their innermost trauma as realized by the user's words in an effort to mentally break their spirit. Once told to look behind their back, the genjutsu becomes complete, causing them to awaken as an obedient follower of the user. Demonic Illusion, Descending Hell Technique. This technique causes the illusion of a tremendous ball of fire falling from the sky into a designated area. The targets involved in the illusion literally feel the ball's hot temperature getting closer. Genjutsu Ball Trap. A series of traps that placed in bridge dimension that bridged the moon and earth. It was created from a dangerous bubble-like substance that traps victims in a genjutsu dream, where they live out their memories. A whirlwind from a sand cloud. The user creates a dome-shaped sandstorm that surrounds an opponent and prevents him from escaping. While performing the technique, the sand particles used collide with each other, creating electromagnetic waves that expose the trapped person to endless genjutsu, in the form of wimpy creatures attacking with kunai. Poison Moth Genjutsu. User first uses poison that is thin and tiny enough to be taken in the air. His target will inhale the poison and start to see the things that user chooses, like caves, moths, or allies of the target trying to kill the target. When her target is imprisoned in her genjutsu, user charges and kills her target. Temple of Nirvana technique. Everybody within an area is subjected to the same illusion. Many white feathers fluttering down from the sky. If a given target sees enough of these feathers fall, they will fall into a deep sleep. Because it's a genjutsu, victims cannot be woken in conventional ways, meaning they will continue to sleep even if extensive combat is going on around them. Lightning Illusion Flash of Lightning Pillar. The user discharges electricity through their entire body in the form of an extremely bright light to disorientate their target's vision. Once this is done, the user can implant images in their head, as seen when C made Jugo see Sasuke getting smashed into the ground by the fourth Raikage. This gives the user's allies the perfect opportunity to attack the unsuspecting victim. Interrogation Genjutsu. User uses this genjutsu to break the will of his captured target, to make them give as much information as possible. However, if the target has strong will, the technique will be useless. Cat Genjutsu. The user uses a genjutsu where the whole place changes inside the target's mind. A new scenery and offensive ninako are created illusory to fight the victim inside their head. Flower Petal Escape. When trapped inside of a genjutsu or wishing to appear trapped, user uses this technique to dissolve her body into lots of flower petals, which then consume her enemy's body. Mirror Flower Water. The user casts an illusion which surrounds the target in flower petals and darkens the surroundings around them. Cactus Genjutsu. Using a nearby cactus's pollen, the user places anyone who comes in contact with it under a strong genjutsu that is hardly noticeable due to the technique's inconspicuous execution. In this genjutsu, The victim has the impression to cross an area over and over again, while in reality, it does not move at all. The technique can be countered by marking an area within the Genjutsu, so that the never-ending circle can be noticed. Once noticed, the technique can be easily dispelled. Landslide Genjutsu. This technique casts an illusion on multiple targets, causing them to perceive several large explosions. Based on this, victims will see collapses around them, disorienting them and leaving them confused and panicked. Hazy Genjutsu. This technique casts an illusion on the enemy that blurs the target's vision of the entire area. In addition, it causes the victim to react as though they're sinking in quicksand, effectively immobilizing the target. Bringer of Darkness technique. The user places a hallucinatory darkness on a target's eyesight, causing them to see nothing but black. Because the target cannot see, they are very vulnerable to attack. Mist Servant technique. This technique creates several ghost-like figures clad in black that emerge from the surrounding environment. When Mubi uses this technique, the figures are somewhat similar in appearance to him, but are not his exact lookalikes in the same that other clone techniques resemble their users. The black figures move slowly towards their target, provoking the target into attacking. Each time the figures are struck, the attacks pass through them, only briefly disfiguring their form. With each attack they receive, the figures multiply. Because this is only a genjutsu, the black figures cannot do any actual harm to their targets. However, if users, while hiding nearby, coordinate their attacks with the figures, such as by secretly throwing kunai along the same trajectory, targets may not realize the kunai are real and thus won't know to dodge. Sly Mind Effect technique. This technique causes a target or targets to, while walking in what they believe to be a straight direction, walk in circles. As is typical for genjutsu, the targets are unlikely to notice that they're doing this, causing them to waste time and energy as they wander about. Illusionary Mist. The Three Tails releases a mist created by its chakra to put intruders under an illusion. The illusion torments the target with events from their past. The illusion will vanish if the victim can break the illusion, either by themselves or with the assistance of another. Paralysing Flute Genjutsu. An illusion that relies on the sound of the flute. After the user plays a melody through the flute, whoever hears it will become paralyzed as if their bodies became heavier. Offsetting sound. A genjutsu that relies on the sound of the ocarina. While playing the melody, the user is able to release his allies from powerful genjutsu. Genjutsu Cursed Seal. The user applies a spiral-shaped cursed seal that manifests a genjutsu on the victim's subconscious, allowing the user to alter selective memories from their mind and manipulate them under their subliminal control. The more powerful the genjutsu is applied to the victim, the further the seal spreads across their body. The technique apparently requires regular reapplications as gradually the mark fades away, causing the victim's true memories to resurface in a migraine-inducing headache. The illusion of the binding rod. The illusion shows the user disappearing before the opponent is surrounded by several bean vines that bind their body and lift them into the air. Demonic illusion. Hell viewing technique. This technique subjects targets to visions of their greatest fear, regardless of whether or not they're aware that they're afraid of it. This fear can be something that the target is actually scared of, or merely the one image that they least want to see. Demonic Phantom Fog Prison. After user performs the necessary hand seals, the Conch King opens its shell and releases a mist that puts the opponent under a genjutsu. In the genjutsu, the Conch King licks the opponent until they're frozen, which results in the opponent being overcome with fear and going into a mental breakdown in a matter of time. Genjutsu Protect. The user can use this technique to place a genjutsu protection in form of mental blocks in the target's mind that contains valuable information in case the one with the information is captured and interrogated. Steaming Multistoried Building. A wide-range genjutsu, whereby Gengetsu, in tandem with his giant clam, is able to manifest realistic mirages by manipulating the light reflecting off the steam that it produces. As it is impossible for observers to distinguish from the real thing through normal methods, this technique is ideal for concealing the actual location of either individual. Toad Confrontation Chant. This is a sound-based genjutsu sung by toads, their most powerful genjutsu. It takes some preparation time for the two to establish the correct harmony, which in the meantime will alert opponents to their location and to what they're doing. Therefore, they rely on allies to fend off or distract opponents until they're ready. Once the toads have harmonized and have begun singing, all opponents, regardless of number or skill, who hear it will fall under the Genjutsu's influence. Within the illusion, the victim's mind and movements are sealed within a barrier of water by 4 toad samurai. Genjutsu Communication. This technique is a projection-type genjutsu used by Kara as a means of communication. Demonic flute. Phantom sound chains. This genjutsu is performed with a flute. Because it is transmitted via sound, it is effective against long ranges, working even on those whose location the user does not know. Whoever hears the flute is subjected to an illusion of their limbs being bound, preventing them from being able to move. They are also subjected to morbid visions, weakening them mentally until they finally lose consciousness. Tree binding death. The target experiences the illusion of a tree coiling around them, preventing them from moving. Because targets are immobile yet still conscious, this technique is a useful way to perform interrogations. Alternatively, users can simply kill the immobilized targets. Ultimate Summoning Beast's Genjutsu. This genjutsu, which is emitted from the beast's eyes, sends rainbow-colored rays to the targets which immobilizes them. Binding Genjutsu. As the name implies, the user binds an opponent in Genjutsu, rendering them unable to move. Mirage Crow. This genjutsu traps a victim in a powerful illusion, with no necessary eye contact. Similar to Ephemeral, however, direct eye contact can still be applied when using this technique. When used, the genjutsu projects a torrent of crows, leaving the opponent at the user's mercy. Ephemeral. This technique allows user to put his opponent within a genjutsu by using his finger as a medium. This induces the genjutsu. When Naruto resisted the sleep command, he then experienced the sensation of his body parts turning into his closest friends, who then tortured him psychologically. Mirror heaven and earth change. When a genjutsu is used on them, the user quickly decrypts the genjutsu with their Sharingan to understand how it works. They then perform an identical genjutsu on their attacker, causing a genjutsu reversal. The effectiveness of the reversed genjutsu relies on how strong this technique's user is relative to their attacker, and whether or not the attacker has any Kekai Genkai of their own. Coercion Sharingan. With a single glance of the Sharingan, this technique forces a nightmarish genjutsu on the victim, overpowering them and bringing them to their knees. Even the usually emotionless Sai was deeply affected by this genjutsu. Genjutsu, Sharingan, broadly refers to a range of genjutsu performed with the Sharingan. Shackling stakes technique. The opponent is caught in the illusionary world created by the user, and the victim is tormented with the sensation of having spikes driven through them, taking away their body's freedom. At the same time, the physical pain accompanying the illusion reveals that the greatest use this technique has is torture. Tsukuyomi. Tsukuyomi is a Mangekyo Sharingan dojutsu, and one of the most powerful genjutsu in existence. Said to represent the spiritual world and darkness, it is the antipode to Amaterasu. After making eye contact with a target, user traps them in an illusion of his design. Through his unprecedented ability to alter target's perception of time, he uses Tsukuyomi to subject victims to days' worth of torture in a matter of seconds. Examples include continual stabbing or reliving traumatic events over and over. Because of the power of the Mangekyo Sharingan and the speed with which Tsukuyomi works, normal methods of countering genjutsu are ineffective against it. Infinite Tsukuyomi is an extremely powerful genjutsu that traps the entire world in an illusion, enslaving the human population in a dream so that their chakra may be drawn upon by the god tree. To cast a genjutsu of this scale, the user's Rinne Sharingan must be reflected off of the moon. Kotoamatsukami is a dojutsu that casts a powerful yet subtle mind-controlling genjutsu on the target. The technique allows the user to enter the mind of any individual within their field of view and manipulate them by giving them false experiences, making it seem as if they were doing things of their own free will. It is regarded as a genjutsu of the highest caliber, due to the victim being entirely unaware that they are being manipulated. Ketsuryugan. By establishing direct skin or eye contact with a target, the user can lock them within a genjutsu for one of various purposes. They can brainwash them into mindless drones with a set order to follow, or trap them into a dreamlike state. For more defensive means, this technique can create a powerful barrier against mind reading, protecting information from being acquired. Izanagi. With Izanagi, the user applies an illusion to reality itself, giving the user control over what is and is not real for as long as Izanagi is active. Users typically do this in order to protect themselves, negating any injuries they receive or even their deaths. Members of the Uchiha clan, as descendants of the sage, perform Izanagi with their Sharingan. In exchange for the brief control over reality that Izanagi grants them, the Sharingan that they perform it with becomes blind. Only awakening the Rinnegan restores the eye's vision. Because the Uchiha prized their Sharingan, to lose it in this way prompted them to label it Genjutsu. Izanami. It is a Genjutsu which affects the target through physical sensations shared between them and the user to perform the illusion. Like its counterpart, in exchange for the temporary ability that it grants the user, the Sharingan with which Izanami is cast is rendered blind and loses its light forever. According to Itachi, this technique and Izanagi form a pair, but unlike the latter, which is a technique capable of altering destiny, Izanami is instead one that decides it. Whilst under the effects of the technique, the target stands motionlessly as the loop of events continually replays inside their mind. Each time a loop is repeated, any physical damage incurred is reset as it were before the start of the loop. Because this technique was created to reprimand and save the users of Izanagi, the victim is able to escape the infinite loop if they can acknowledge the real results of their actions, and in doing so, accept their fate. According to Itachi, there was a point in time where members of the clan abused the abilities granted by Izanagi, instead simply casting the technique as a means of escaping the undesirable results of their actions. As such, Izanami is ironically not a genjutsu to be used on an enemy, but on a friend who has lost their way as a means of helping them find themselves again. And that concludes the Uchiha clan's Genjutsu. If you found it interesting, please like and subscribe to the channel because there will be a lot more content. See you soon.